Hey there. Ever feel like your energy is totally off, like out of whack, but you just can't put your finger on why?
It's like something's off, but you don't know what.
Yeah, exactly. Well, get this. Today we're going to dive into this idea, but through the lens of traditional Chinese medicine, TCM.
Oh, I love TCM.
It's so fascinating. So TCM practitioners, they believe that energy can actually get stuck in your body.
Really?
Yeah, and it creates these things called entry-exit blocks.
Entry exit block.
Yeah, entry-exit blocks, EE blocks for short.
Okay.
And they can seriously impact your well-being. And our guide for this deep dive is Lonnie S. Jarrett.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him.
He's got some awesome insights. He really dives into these entry-exit blocks and explains how they can, impact you.
So, how do these blocks even happen?
Okay, so Jarrett, he describes it like this. Imagine your body's energy, your chi, flowing like a river, right?
Okay.
So entry-exit blocks, they're like dams in the river.
Oh, like dams. Okay.
So they're these energetic dams. They disrupt the flow.
That makes sense. So then how do TCM practitioners actually find these blocks?
They can pinpoint these blocks just from feeling your pulse.
Wait, what? Just from the pulse?
I know, it sounds crazy, but you got to think about it like this, right?
Okay.
Each organ system has a corresponding meridian,
Right.
and those meridians, they have peak activity times throughout the day.
Okay.
It's all based on something called the Chinese clock.
The Chinese club.
Yeah. So I'm thinking we need to break down this whole Chinese clock thing because I've heard of it, but, what is it all about?
Right. Okay. Well, you know how a clock has 12 hours?
Yeah.
Well, imagine each segment on the clock representing a 2-hour window. Okay.
Hmm.
And in that window, a specific meridian is most active.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So, for example, the stomach meridian, that's most active between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m.
Oh, that makes sense. Breakfast time.
Exactly. Prime time for digesting all that yummy food.
All right, so we got the clock, we got the meridians, but how do these entry-exit blocks, how do they fit into this?
Okay, so this is where it gets really cool.
Okay.
When you've got an entry-exit block between two meridians, the meridian before the blockage, it'll actually show signs of excess energy.
Really?
Yeah. Think of it like this. Like water pressure building up behind a dam.
Oh, okay.
And then on the flip side, the meridian after the blockage, it'll have deficient energy.
Deficient, like not enough.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the little trickle of water downstream from the same dam.
Wow. Okay, so it's like this push and pull of energy.
Yes. And a skilled TCM practitioner, they can feel these subtle energy dynamics just by feeling your pulse.
Wow. That's amazing. So they can feel the excess and the deficiency.
Exactly. Imagine identifying a traffic jam just by listening to the road noise.
Wow. That's wild. Okay, so can you give me an example? Like, what would one of these entry exits blocks, what would it actually feel like?
Okay. Let's say there's a blockage between your spleen and heart meridians.
Okay.
Now, the spleen pulse, it might feel really full and kind of tense.
Tense.
Yeah, like a balloon about to burst,
Right.
and that's indicating stagnation, like that buildup we talked about. But then, on the other hand, the heart pulse, it might be super weak or even thready.
Oh, wow. Okay, so by feeling the pulse, they can tell where the energy is stuck.
Yes.
That's amazing. So what does this mean for us? Like, what do we do with this information?
Well, that's the empowering part. If you can recognize these blocks early on, it's like catching a health issue before it even becomes a thing.
So it's like preventative for your energy. I love that.
Exactly. And once you understand where the energy is getting stuck, you can start making changes to get things flowing again.
Okay, what kind of changes?
We're talking lifestyle stuff like diet tweaks, managing stress, things like that.
Okay, so we can actually use this ancient wisdom to feel better in our modern lives.
Exactly. It's about understanding how your physical, emotional, and even spiritual well-being, how it all connects.
Okay, so now I'm really interested in these EE blocks. Each one's got its own kind of like personality, right? It's not a one-size-fits-all thing.
Exactly. They manifest in totally unique ways.
Okay. Well, what are some of the common ones that people experience?
Jarrett, he dives into several key entry/exit blocks and how each one can manifest, not just physically, but also emotionally, even mentally, too.
Wow. Okay, let's unpack these, starting with that spleen-heart combo we talked about earlier. What makes that one so impactful?
That one is all about nourishment.
Nourishment, okay.
Yeah, but not just the food you eat. It's also about the love, the acceptance, that sense of belonging, that you allow yourself to receive.
Okay, so if that pathway is blocked, it's like you're starving your heart even if you're eating really well.
You got it. And Jarrett he highlights a connection to acupuncture points here. He says, spleen 21, it's called great enveloping. It represents that feeling of being nurtured, cared for.
Oh, like a warm hug, but like from the inside out.
Yes, precisely. But when you have this entry-exit block, it's like you're rejecting that nourishment from others and from yourself.
Wow, okay, so that's the spleen side of it. What's happening on the heart side with this blockage?
Well, the entry point on the heart meridian is called utmost source, and it's all about the heart's ability to love and connect, like a wellspring of joy.
Okay, but with this blockage, it's like that wellspring is cut off.
Unfortunately, yes. People with this EE block, they often struggle with self-worth, have trouble receiving love, or even experiencing real intimacy.
Wow. So this blockage can even affect our relationships. That's intense.
It really can. And that's just one example. Ready to explore another entry-exit block and its own unique impact.
Absolutely. This is fascinating stuff. Let's do it.
Uh,
Where to next? Okay, let's dive into the kidney and pericardium connection.
Ooh, good one.
Right. This one feels pretty relevant when we're talking about like matters of the heart,
Hmm.
both literally and figuratively. So what's the deal with this entry-exit block?
Well, this blockage, it's all about how our deepest fears, they can actually impact how we experience intimacy and joy.
Okay, so it's like deep down core stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The kidney meridian, it's like this reservoir of resilience, right?
Okay.
But it also holds our deepest fears.
Oh, wow. So it's both the strength and the vulnerability.
Exactly. And then you've got the pericardium meridian, and that's like the heart's protector.
Okay.
But it's also the gateway to like deep connection and joy.
Okay, so when these two are blocked, what happens?
Well, it's like you're building a wall around your heart.
Oh, wow. So this blockage can show up as being afraid of intimacy.
Yes. And Jarrett talks about how people with this EE block, they might become emotionally withdrawn.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They're afraid that like opening their heart is just going to lead to pain.
Right, like they're protecting themselves.
Exactly. So their heart fire, it's like smoldering under all that fear.
So they might feel kind of like emotionally cold.
Yes. Or
Okay.
numb. Or even depressed.
Wow, so like they're trapped in their own winter.
It can be. And the more they isolate themselves, the worse it gets.
Right, like a vicious cycle.
Exactly. But here's the thing.
What's that?
It can also go the other way. Really? Yeah. Some people with this same blockage, they overcompensate.
Overcompensate? What do you mean?
Like they might seek constant validation
Oh,
or
right.
jump from one relationship to another.
Oh, I see. Like they can't be alone.
Right. Or they might engage in risky behaviors just trying to outrun the vulnerability.
Wow, so it's like they're trying to drown out the fear with all the noise and distractions.
Yes. And it's exhausting. It never really works.
It's like trying to build a house on a foundation of sand.
Exactly. It's only a matter of time before it all falls apart.
So it sounds like no matter how it manifests, this blockage is really about facing those fears head on.
Yes. And that's where understanding these energy patterns, it can be so helpful.
Yeah, because it's not about judging ourselves for having these blocks.
Right. It's about understanding why we built those walls in the first place.
So how do we start breaking down these walls? What can we do?
Well, Jarrett connects this EE block to two acupuncture points.
Okay, let's hear them. Which ones?
Kidney 22, called Walking on the Veranda,
Okay.
and Pericardium 1, known as Heavenly Pond.
Walking on the veranda in Heavenly Pond. Okay, I love those names. They sound so peaceful.
Right, they're beautiful. So walking on the veranda, it's all about moving from darkness to light,
Oh, I like that.
from fear to openness, like stepping out of the shadows.
And into the sunshine.
Yes,
Right.
and Heavenly Pond.
Oh, wow.
That one's about tapping into that wellspring of love, creating space for joy and intimacy to come back in.
This one really resonates with me because it's like we all have that capacity for love, right?
We do.
But sometimes we just need a little help clearing the path.
Exactly. And that's what TCM can do. It helps us understand these subtle energetic blocks and gives us tools to restore balance.
Speaking of blocks, what's next on the list? This is fascinating stuff.
Let's switch gears and talk about the liver and lung connection.
Okay. Liver and lung.
This one's interesting because it shows how our emotions, especially grief and anger,
Okay.
they can affect our breath.
Ooh, interesting. I know when I'm stressed, I hold my breath like crazy.
Right. Well, in TCM, the liver, it's like the body's conductor.
Okay.
It makes sure ki is flowing smoothly.
Got it. So what happens when things get off beat?
When we suppress emotions, especially anger, it creates stagnation.
Stagnation.
Like a kink in the hose.
Oh, I get it.
And because the liver and lung are connected, the stagnation, it impacts our breathing.
Which makes sense. We always say, take a deep breath to calm down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The lungs, they're all about taking in the new, letting go of the old.
Right.
But when this pathway is blocked, it feels like we can't breathe.
Physically and emotionally.
Exactly. You might notice shallow breathing or feel disconnected.
Yeah, I've totally felt that, like a tightness in my chest.
Yes. Classic sign of this block.
Wow. So we're literally holding on to those unexpressed emotions.
Yes. And it creates a vicious cycle.
Because the more we constrict, the more stagnant we become.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we break free? How do we get things moving again?
Remember those acupuncture points we talked about?
Yes. Well, for this blockage, there's liver 14, gate of hope,
Date of hope. Okay.
and lung 1, central treasure.
Central treasure.
Mhm.
These names are amazing.
Right. So gate of hope, it's about opening ourselves up to new possibilities,
Okay.
even when we're stuck in those old patterns of grief or anger.
Even when it feels impossible.
Exactly. It's about remembering that we have the strength to move through it.
I love that. There's always a way out.
Yes. And then central treasure.
Okay.
This one's about reconnecting with our own worthiness,
Okay.
remembering that we're bigger than those difficult emotions.
Like creating a safe haven within ourselves.
Yes. It's about cultivating peace and resilience.
This is making me realize how important it is to process our emotions,
Yeah,
not just bottle them up.
absolutely. And TCM, it reminds us that we're always a work in progress.
I love that. Every breath is a chance to start again.
Exactly. So we've covered 2 pretty intense EE blocks.
We have. What else did Jared have to say about these energy zappers?
Well, he talks about one that can really mess with our relationships.
Okay, tell me. Which one?
The small intestine bladder blockage.
Wait, the small intestine and the bladder, how are those connected to our relationships?
You'd be surprised. The small intestine, it's not just about physical digestion. It's also about how we process information.
Okay.
Like from the outside world, but also from within ourselves.
Oh, interesting. So it's like our internal filter, deciding what's useful and what's not.
Yes, and the bladder is about holding on to fear, especially the fear of change.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
And setting boundaries, too.
So when these 2 meridians are blocked, what happens?
It creates this disconnect between what we're taking in and how we're feeling about it.
Oh, wow. So we might hear what someone is saying,
Yes,
but not really be listening.
exactly. Or we might twist their words to fit our own beliefs.
Oh, which would definitely cause some problems.
It makes it hard to trust our own judgment, too.
Right, because we're second-guessing everything.
Exactly. It's like walking on eggshells all the time.
So communication breakdowns, self-doubt, this blockage sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It can be tough, but once you're aware of it, you can start to change those patterns.
Okay, how do we do that?
Well, Jarrett talks about 2 acupuncture points for this EE block.
Let's hear them.
Small intestine 19, called listening palace,
Okay.
and bladder 1, known as eyes bright.
Listening palace and eyes bright. Okay, those are perfect. I love it. So tell me, what do those points do?
Listening palace. It's all about cultivating deep listening
Okay.
to ourselves and to other people.
So really hearing what they're saying.
Yes. Not just the words, but the emotions behind them, too.
It's like listening with your whole being.
Exactly. And eyes bright, that one's about seeing things clearly
Okay.
without fear clouding our judgment.
It's like taking off a blindfold.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's about trusting your intuition, seeing things as they are.
This is making me think about how important it is to be mindful of the information we consume
Yes.
and to be willing to challenge our own assumptions.
Exactly. What we see is just our perception.
And that can always change. I feel like this conversation is helping me see things more clearly already.
I love that.
Okay, so we've talked about 3 EE blocks so far.
We have.
Are there more?
There are. Jared also dives into a mouthful of a blockage.
Oh, no. What is it?
The triple heater gallbladder blockage.
The triple heater. Okay, that one always throws me for a loop. Can you give me a quick refresher on what the triple heater even is?
Of course. So it's not actually a single organ.
Okay.
It's more like an energy system that controls our metabolism
Okay.
and helps us adapt to change.
So like our internal thermostat, making
Absolutely.
sure everything's running smoothly.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm with you. So how does the gallbladder fit into this?
Well, the gallbladder is all about making decisions, taking action, moving forward with courage.
So when these 2 are blocked,
It creates a ton of confusion.
oh no, like we can't trust our own judgment.
Exactly. It's like your internal compass is spinning.
That sounds frustrating.
It is. You might get headaches, even migraines.
Really?
Yeah, or you might clench your jaw, grind your teeth.
Wow. It's like all that indecision gets stuck in our bodies.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we clear this blockage?
Jarrett focuses on 2 points for this one.
Okay, which ones?
Triple heater 22, harmony bone,
Harmony bone,
and gallbladder 1, orbit bone.
orbit bone. I love how literal those names are. They get straight to the point.
Right. So harmony bone, that reflects the triple heater's role in maintaining balance.
Right.
When this point is activated, it calms the nervous system, releases tension.
Like hitting the reset button.
Yes. And orbit bone, that speaks to the gallbladder's connection to clear vision.
So trusting our gut, making decisions that feel right.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we have the wisdom within to make the best choices for ourselves.
This is so insightful. I'm really starting to understand how connected everything is.
It is amazing.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Is there one more EE block on our list?
There is. And this one's all about letting go.
Letting go. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
This one involves the large intestine and stomach meridians.
Okay.
And it's about letting go both physically and emotionally.
Interesting. So what's the large intestine's role in all of this?
It's not just about eliminating waste.
Right.
It's about releasing anything that's no longer serving us
Okay.
on an emotional and energetic level.
Wow, I like that.
Oh,
Clearing out the clutter of our souls. What about the stomach?
the stomach is all about receiving, digesting new experiences.
So if these two are blocked, it means we can't let go of the old to make room for the new.
Exactly. And that can show up in a lot of ways.
Like what?
Physically, you might have digestive problems like constipation or bloating.
Oh, wow. Like our bodies are literally holding on.
Exactly. And emotionally, you might feel stuck.
Stuck.
Yeah, unable to move on from past hurts.
Oh.
Holding on to grudges, having trouble processing grief.
Right. Jared even mentions that not being able to cry can be a sign of this blockage.
Yes. Tears are a healthy release.
But if that pathway is blocked,
The tears get trapped.
and create more stagnation.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we unlock that pathway? What can we do?
Well, there are 2 acupuncture points that can help.
Okay, tell me.
Large intestine 20, called welcome fragrance.
Welcome fragrance.
And stomach 1, called receive tears.
Wow. Receive tears. Those names are so powerful.
They are. So, welcome fragrance is about inviting in the new,
Yeah.
opening ourselves to new possibilities.
I love that imagery, like a breath of fresh air.
Exactly. And receive tears, it's about giving ourselves permission to feel our emotions,
Okay.
to grieve, to release what we're holding on to.
It's like acknowledging that healing is a process.
Yes. And sometimes that process is messy.
It's true. But we don't have to be afraid of those messy emotions.
Exactly. They have so much to teach us if we're willing to listen.
This has been such an incredible conversation. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of my body and my emotions.
That's wonderful to hear.
So we've identified these blocks, we understand them, but now what do we do? How do we actually get that key flowing again? So we've identified these energy blocks, we understand them, but how do we actually do something about them? Like, what are the practical steps to get unstuck?
Well, the good news is TCM has a ton of tools to help you restore that balance and get your key flowing again.
Okay, good. So what kind of tools are we talking about?
Well, we've mentioned acupuncture, and it's a big deal in TCM for a reason.
Right.
Because it works. By stimulating those specific points, remember those energetic highways,
Yeah.
it can clear out those blockages, bring everything back into harmony.
So it's like a tune-up for your energy.
Exactly. But acupuncture, it's not the only tool in the TCM toolkit, right?
Right.
Because TCM is all about the big picture, it's holistic.
Okay, so it's not just about needles.
No. It's about your physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being, all connected.
So like what we eat, how we move, even our stress levels, it all matters.
It all plays a part. For example, let's say you're dealing with liver qi stagnation. Remember, we talked about that?
Yeah, that feeling of like holding your breath, unexpressed emotions.
Exactly. Gentle exercises like qigong or tai chi can be super helpful.
Because they get the energy moving again.
Exactly. It's like giving your energy a nudge in the right direction.
I like that.
And then there's diet, another powerful way to support your energy.
Okay, so what should we be eating?
Well, warm cooked foods, those are great, especially if they have a naturally sweet flavor.
Okay.
Those are nourishing for your spleen and stomach meridians.
Which we need for energy, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got acupuncture, we've got movement, we've got food.
And that's just scratching the surface.
Wow, there's so much we can do.
The beauty is TCM empowers you to take charge of your own healing.
I love that.
Yeah.
So it's not about relying on someone else to fix us.
Right. It's about understanding your own energy.
and making choices that support it.
Exactly, turning into those little signals your body's always sending.
Our bodies are pretty wise when we actually listen.
They are.
Well, this has been such an eye-opening conversation. As we wrap things up here, any final thoughts? What's the most important thing for people to remember about all of this?
You know, if there's one thing I hope people take away, it's this. Your body knows how to heal.
It does.
It wants to thrive.
Okay.
But we have to listen to those whispers, sometimes even shouts, and respond in a way that supports that natural healing.
That is such a powerful message. And on that note, it's time for us to say goodbye. But don't worry, we'll be back soon with another deep dive.
Until then, be well. Keep exploring.
And remember, your energy is your superpower. So learn to harness